Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Massachusetts Grant Funding Workshop. I see people coming into the room, and so we'll give it a couple of minutes. I hope that spring is making your way in New England. It's kind of slow, but definitely you can feel spring out there. I love it. All right, well, I'm going to get started. Welcome, everybody, to the Massachusetts Grant Funding Workshop. My name is Martha Shields. I direct the New England Environmental Finance Center and also the SNEP Network program. We designed today's webinar to specifically give you some resources to address some of the most challenging questions that we hear communities and tribes say when they're trying to address their water quality issues. And that is, number one is what sort of funding is available to them at any time. And number two is who can help them with technical assistance and hopefully free technical assistance to be more competitive as they seek funding and financing to implement their projects. Today's webinar will describe some technical assistance that is available, and then after that, you'll hear from a dozen funders describing their funding programs. But first, just a few words about the SNEP program. The Southeast New England program was established in 2012 in partnership with EPA Region 1. To date, over $50 million has been spent by the SNEP program to support restoration and preservation of watersheds and other water quality projects in the Southeast New England program geography. We have already seen the positive environmental and socioeconomic impacts of the SNEP program because they lead to really lasting solutions for communities and tribes that take advantage of them. The SNEP network itself is just one of the projects supported by the SNEP program. Now we're in our 6th year, and we've seen that the number of communities and tribes and nonprofits taking advantage of the SNEP network services has only grown in time. I think it grows in time because the SNEP assistance that we provide tees up other funding opportunities that communities can take advantage of. This is super important because the need for climate resilience and clean water is only going to get critical as we confront changing weather patterns. Slide 2, please. Oh, you're on slide 2. Great. So this is today's agenda. I'm going to give a brief introduction to who the New England Environmental Finance Center is, and then I'll hand it over to our NEEFC team to talk about some available free technical assistance. After that, we will hear from a panel of Massachusetts funders describing their programs, what kind of projects they fund, their timelines, etc. After the funding panel is over, there will be a group question and answer session. And then after that, you'll all be put into breakout rooms where you can ask the funders any questions you have about their programs. It'll be very simple to do this. It's very intuitive. That will guide you through the process of how to get to the breakout rooms. The breakout rooms will be open up until noon. So you can hop between them if you have a question for multiple funders. And then all slides and the recording will be shared with you after this webinar. Next slide, please. A little housekeeping for today is that you can always ask questions in the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel. I know you all probably know this inside out, but I have to repeat it. If you have technical issues, use the chat feature to connect with the webinar host. The webinar will be recorded and sent to you, as I said. And then if anyone needs closed captioning, you can access it by clicking the CC on your lower bar. Next slide, please. Okay, so a little bit about who the New England EFC is. We are a technical assistance provider funded by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. We've been around for over 24 years now. And our mission is to build community capacity so that communities and tribes are able to fund and finance their environmental priorities. We like to work with underserved and environmental justice communities. We make that a priority. And we integrate climate resilience into all our programs and our projects. We have several grants from EPA. One of them is the SNEP network, like I mentioned before. Another big grant we have is the New England Water Infrastructure Network, where we work on drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater issues, including green infrastructure. We also have a sustainable operating grant from the Office of Pollution Prevention, where we work with the craft beverage industry of New England. Next slide, please. This slide describes the spectrum of services that we provide through the New England EFC. I won't read them all, but in short, what this describes is that we are here to provide support to any community that wants it in the SNP area or throughout New England. We help them get to the phase where they can fund and finance their projects and become more competitive as they go for their grants. Next slide, please. I'm going to now hand it over to the Senior Program Officer for the SNEP Network, Alex Gulachensky.
Thank you so much, Martha. Thanks for introducing us. Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Alex. I'm going to briefly share a little bit about one of those technical assistance programs that are provided by the New England Environmental Finance Center, the SNEP Network. Like Martha said, we are funded through a cooperative agreement with the EPA, and we are entirely focused on the SNEP region, Southeastern New England and Massachusetts, but we do create a lot of resources for the entire New England region. We are a collaborative partnership of 16 plus on the ground, local, well-known organizations. We are regional planners, nonprofits, universities based in the Southeastern Mass and New England region. We offer free technical assistance, leadership development, financial assistance to municipalities, organizations, and tribes. And our goal is to empower communities and increase the capacity of the region to achieve a healthy watershed and long-term climate resilience. Like I said, we do offer a lot of trainings, tools, and technical assistance across a wide ranging of topics related to things like stormwater management, sustainable financing, ecological restoration, and a lot more. Next slide. So briefly, our network kind of works together on three main buckets of services. And a cross-cutting theme for a lot of the pillars of services we provide is that we are focused on things that are accessible, relevant, and repeatable to the community as a whole. And we try to create, when we see common challenges, create resources that are relevant to all of New England. We do on-demand trainings and webinars. We do in-person and in-depth workshops. We also do a lot of cohort-based kind of peer-to-peer leadership exchange opportunities. Because we're in our 6th year, we have dozens and dozens of already recorded webinars like the one that you are attending today on our website that are accessible at any time on a wide range of topics. We also do technical assistance for communities. We have two kind of different pathways. We do on-demand TA requests. We have an online portal on our website. And our real goal as a collaborative of a lot of partner networks who do provide services to actually match make organizations with partners who have capacity to support them. We have on the ground project managers in Mass and Rhode Island. You'll actually meet the Massachusetts project manager, Barb Kickham, later. They're actually responding to those requests to make sure that communities are connected with the resources they need. We also do a yearly solicitation for more in-depth technical assistance projects for communities. These are really aimed at really building relationships with communities on larger projects with the focus on, again, moving those projects towards design and implementation. Like I said, everything we do is free to communities, but we also offer free financial support for consultants if needed for something like an engineering design here. You can see lots of examples of the types of projects that we've funded on our website and also in our yearly solicitations, which are going to be opening up again in July. And because this is a funding workshop, one big focus that we have seen in the past is working with communities to help them access state and federal funding. Lastly, because we are a collaborative, we are always looking for themes. We're looking for common challenges to help communities meet their needs across the region. We've created tools and resources which are available on our website. These are meant to be supportive at a regional scale. Two ones I just want to throw out because they're common challenges and might be relevant to communities who are listening today is we have a stormwater retrofit manual aimed at supporting municipalities. And we also have a low impact bylaw review tool. This is an online checklist to help municipalities assess their regulatory infrastructure for its best managements for green infrastructure. And next slide. Yeah, here's just a quick view of the partners that are in our network. You might already be working with these folks. And if you want to learn more, you can see our website here, and you'll be able to learn a lot more about the types of projects and the types of trainings that we're able to provide. And with that, I'm going to wrap up my slides and actually introduce our next speaker, Matt Duff. Yep, here's Matt. Matt is water infrastructure specialist at the New England Environmental Science Center. He's going to talk about another assistance project that we provide, the New England Water Infrastructure Network. Okay, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. It's really good to be here. I'm glad that I have the chance to talk to you all today about our NEWIN program, or as Alex said, the New England Water Infrastructure Network, and how we can help communities like yours access essential funding for your water infrastructure needs. So at NEWIN, our primary mission is relatively straightforward, but we consider it to be pretty critical, and that is we help communities secure funding for key water-related infrastructure. And so we're talking drinking water, wastewater, stormwater management, and addressing non-point source pollution. And essentially, if your community has a water infrastructure challenge, our goal is to help you meet that need and meet the community at whatever stage of the process they are currently at. And so we focus primarily on helping communities leverage the clean water and drinking water state revolving funds, but also can assist in accessing and identifying various other funding sources. And so this assistance can take many forms, but typically it includes helping develop customized technical, financial, or managerial solutions to your water challenges. And to do this, we have a fantastic team of experts and core partners that we work with. Our network is on purpose is very diverse, so we can have a lot of various expertise to help to tackle a lot of these different problems and challenges. And so again, to accomplish this, we have our network of core partners that we work with, including Moonshot Missions, UMass Boston Sustainable Solutions Lab, RCAP Solutions, Quantified Ventures, and the University of New Hampshire Stormwater Center. And so all of these partners bring a great depth of expertise in various environmental fields, including financial planning and strategizing, engineering, asset management, reviews of stormwater infrastructure and capacity, and also just generally working closely with communities through engagement and outreach. We also have a pool of pre-vetted consultants that we can call upon to fill any sort of gaps or any sort of niche expertise that might be needed to tackle a specific project. Next slide, please. So who does NEWIN exactly work with? So we partner closely with everyone from federal government agencies and state departments down to municipalities and even community-based organizations. We work closely alongside tribes, water utilities, manufactured housing communities, engineers, consultants, and many more types of communities. We try to use the term community in a pretty broad sense. And so again, our strength lies in these diverse partnerships, which allow us to sort of effectively bridge the gap between whatever unique water challenge your community might be facing and the funding opportunities that can try to turn some of those solutions that we strategize together and turn that into a reality. Next slide, please. So how do we actually go about doing this? Newen's approach can conceivably cover every step in the infrastructure funding journey. So we believe that securing funding isn't just about that application stage. It starts, way, way before that and can continue long after you submit all that paperwork that is sometimes required for some of these funding sources. And so that's why our support spans 5 key phases. So we start with partnerships and engagement, which includes building relationships and understanding what your community's needs are. We then can move on to planning and assessment, so helping you identify exactly what's needed and what's actually achievable given all the other factors at play. After that, we can try to help guide communities through the project development phase, where we can try to translate those plans that we create into something that's more of a concrete proposal. And then we all focus very heavily, again, on the funding and the financing, because knowing how to secure and manage funding is essential. And in order to have any of those projects that we try to plan in those beginning stages become a reality, we need to ensure that the funding and the financing is in place to be able to make that possible. And finally, we can be there for the construction and overall project management. So ensuring that the funded projects can move smoothly from those ideas to completed infrastructure. So in other words, we can be with you from the early stages of figuring out what your community actually needs and can stay involved through the whole process right up to the final completion of your project. And so getting help from Newen is a pretty simple process. Like Alex had said, on our website at neefc.org/water infrastructure, you can fill out our online portal form. And whether you're just starting out with ideas or you're ready to apply for the funding, we encourage you to contact us. We're here to guide you step by step and to ensure that your community successfully secures and uses the funding that it needs to tackle your infrastructure challenges.
Thank you, Matt. And I'm going to pass it on next to Andrea Berry. Andrea is the Climate Funding Manager here at the New England Environmental Finance Center. She's going to talk about the Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center. Okay.
Great. Thanks so much, Alex. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Berry, and as Alex said, I'm the Climate Funding Manager with the NEEFC. My project is specifically focused on supporting the wide breadth of environmental justice work that happens throughout Region 1 of the EPA, which is all 6 New England states, as well as both the state and federally recognized tribes that exist within that catchment area. So the Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center is actually a program of UConn. So down at the University of Connecticut, and the Technical Assistance Center, the TICTAC as we call it, is made up of a group of key partners. So UConn is kind of managing that program as the EFC is managing the Newen program and the SNEP network. And we are part of that community here at the EFC and joined by partners from UMass Boston's Institute for New England and Native American Studies, the Environmental Protection Network, and the New England Rural Health Association. These 5 organizations work collectively to support all different types of environmental justice work. Our key focus is in building the capacity of New England underserved and rural or remote communities to address environmental and energy justice concerns and serve as a resource and a technical assistance hub. We provide technical assistance services and education, outreach, community engagement on any type of work that touches on environmental and climate adaptation issues, kind of writ large. We serve communities and organizations working on environmental justice and climate resilience, including everyone from municipalities to nonprofits and community-based organizations, state and federally recognized tribal nations, small businesses, anyone who is looking to find that intersection between justice work and environmental and climate issues. We're here and ready to help. I have included down on the bottom of this slide our email address. So you just email tictac@uconn.edu or our website, and I'll drop those into the chat as well after I finish talking. Let's move to the next slide. So the scope of the TICTAC, as I said, is quite broad. We can address issues around environmental quality, energy justice, climate adaptation, environmental health. Really, if you think that it is working towards a key environmental issue and your community is identified as an environmental justice community or rural or remote or underserved, we hope that you'll reach out to us and see how we can support you. Next slide, please. We provide all different types of services, everything from grant preparation and submission to technical consultation and training programs and tools. And we're able to access some of the amazing tools that all of our other partners and all of the EFC programs are making available and can help your community or organization to walk through step by step. You will hear later in this presentation from the Environmental Justice for New England grant-making program, and the TICTAC really runs in parallel to that program. And so as folks are thinking about the seed funding or tiers 1 through 3 of the Environmental Justice for New England grant effort, please do get in touch with us because we work very closely with the grant maker and are able to review applications and to help set organizations towards a path of being successful for that funding, as well as many other areas. We hope you'll get in touch with us. And again, I'll drop our contact information into the chat. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Andrea. Up next, we have Avery Davis. Avery's at Syracuse University Environmental Finance Center and is going to talk about the Environmental Finance Center Network.
Thank you, Alex. As she mentioned, I am from the Syracuse University Environmental Finance Center, but today we'll be speaking on behalf of the Environmental Finance Center Network, or EFCN, which both my center and the New England EFC are proud to be a part of. So what is it? The EFCN is a university and nonprofit-based organization creating difficult solutions to the how to pay challenges of environmental protection and infrastructure. So we do work collectively as a network, but also independently. So as our individual environmental finance centers and nonprofits in order to address these issues and provide these services across the entire United States, including the 5 territories and the Navajo Nation. And we do this through by providing training, direct professional assistance or technical assistance, which we'll be talking more about shortly, the production of durable resources, as well as innovative policy ideas. And our website is on the bottom left corner of the screen there, efcnetwork.org, if you'd like to learn more. Next slide, please. So you can see on the map all of our partners that are currently involved in the network. And this is the reason we are able to operate nationwide, because we have these great partners that know their regions and know the communities that are local to them. So our services are available for small water and wastewater systems nationwide. Now, this includes small drinking water systems that serve 10,000 people or fewer, small wastewater systems with an average daily wastewater flow of less than 1 million gallons per day, as well as decentralized and/or septic systems. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of different types of services the network can offer you, all of which are at no cost. Related to why we're meeting today is funding and financial management. So our partners can help you and help small systems identify best fit funding programs, understand eligibility and timeline guidance, support actual application development and finding match or supplemental funding. We also can assist with asset and utility management, whether that's an asset management plan, planning for weather-related threats. In addition, we can support regulatory compliance and reporting. So understanding regulations like the Davis-Bacon Act, BABA guidance, and more. Public engagement and partnerships as well, which also includes regionalization efforts. We also can assist with utility workforce development and leadership development. This includes succession planning, recruitment support, so hiring water operators, doing salary studies or comparisons, and more. And finally, perhaps the most broad categories are technical support. So things like water and wastewater math, operator training to support our utilities, water reuse and recycling, cybersecurity, mapping, and so much more. So you can learn more or request our services directly by visiting our Get Help page, which is visible on the bottom of the slide here. And I'll also be dropping a link in the chat if you'd like to learn more. And on that note, I will hand it back to Alex.
Thank you so much, Avery, and thank you to all of our technical assistants presentations. We're going to move now on to the funding portion of this webinar, and I'm going to pass it over to Barbara Kickham. Barbara's the Mass Liaison for the SNEP Network, and she'll be introducing our next panelists.
Good morning. Thank you, Alex, for the introduction. Each of our speakers will have 5 minutes. Any questions you have in the chat, put them in the chat box. I'll read them at the end of the introductions before we have the breakout rooms, but try to keep any of these questions pretty general for everyone and your more specific questions in the breakout rooms. So our first speaker is Courtney Rocha. She is the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program Southeast Regional Coordinator.
Thank you, Barbara. Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney Rocha. I'm here to represent the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness, or MVP program within the EEA. And our grant program funds community identified priority actions that address climate change impacts. These priority actions are the result of our planning grant, and over 95% of the Commonwealth has gone through our planning grant to make them eligible for our action grants. To update those priority actions, our program has come out with a different planning grant called MVP 2.0, which is a prescribed process, but that's not what I'm here to talk about today. Today, I'm here to talk about our action grants that fund community identified priority actions. So our action grants can range from up to $3 million for individual projects and $5 million for regional projects. We require a 10% match with exceptions where it could be waived, and we are a reimbursement-based program. Our RFR is currently open, and applications will be due in early April, with awardees notified in June of 2025. Projects typically start in September, and then they'll go to June 30th, 2026 for a one-year project, or June 30th, 2027 for a 2-year project. There's really no benefit to a 1 or 2-year project. We advise communities to take the time that the project needs. We fund all sorts of project types, from planning all the way up to construction. Our planning grant is a prescribed process, but additional planning, assessments, capacity building, regulatory updates, design and permitting, and construction on the ground implementation. I also want to mention that this year we have a rural and small town set aside where approximately 30% of our funding for this round will be set aside for communities with rural and small town designation. And you can look in our RFR to see if your municipality meets this designation. Match will be waived, and you may request some of your funding upfront. So our program's priorities align with our core principles, and that's also evident in our application. So competitive projects typically meet 2 or more of our core principles, and I've summarized them here. Community actions are community-driven. They increase equitable outcomes for environmental justice and priority populations. And priority populations is our term for identifying that although your community might not have an environmental justice population, there aren't populations that are more vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. Competitive projects build community capacity, they utilize climate data, employ nature-based solutions, the engagement that is part of the project is thoughtful, creative, and iterative. And we like to see projects that are regional and innovative and that can be transferred across the Commonwealth. And that's all I have for today. Thank you for having me, and don't hesitate to reach out. There are 6 regional coordinators across the state. Our RFR is currently open, so we can't answer any project-specific questions, but we're always happy to familiarize anyone with our program and answer any questions you may have. Thank you for having me.
Great, thank you, Courtney. Our next speaker is Judy Rondow, and she is the Non-Point Source Watershed Specialist and Outreach Coordinator for Mass DEP. And Judy has 3 programs that Mass DEP funds that she will be speaking. So she has 15 minutes.
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, good morning, everybody. I'm going to start off with the first of our federally funded grants, the Section 604B Water Quality Management Grant. So as I said, this is funded through the Clean Water Act, and it funds projects that are associated with water quality management planning, just like the name says. Our overarching priorities for this grant include all aspects of planning that will lead to the development of implementation projects. And we have, for the next 5 years, we have 3 priority areas that we'll be focusing on, and those are developed land, septic systems, and agriculture. These planning aspects include the characterization of water quality in impaired, threatened, or healthy waters, the quantification of pollutant loads, determination of load reductions that are required to meet Mass surface water quality standards, as well as the identification and development of implementation solutions. Eligible projects include activities like water quality monitoring and assessment, water quality and watershed management planning. So that can include the development of watershed-based plans, comprehensive wastewater management plans, and targeted watershed management plans. The planning and design of implementation projects, and a relatively new category that we've added to this grant is planning for nitrogen impacted coastal waters. Eligible entities include units of government, so that can include cities and towns, counties, and also organizations that operate on county or regional level, such as regional planning agencies, councils of government, conservation districts, and federally recognized tribes. This year, we anticipate we'll have about $400,000 in funding. Awards typically range from $50,000 to $100,000 per award. We don't have a minimum or maximum award amount, so you don't need to worry about that. There is no required match, although if you do provide match, it does increase the competitiveness of your proposal. The grant duration for 604B is 2 years, and there's the potential for 2 one-year renewal options for a total of 4 years for your grant project. When you're preparing your proposal, a few things to think about. Please follow the outline that is provided in the RFP. If you leave any of those elements out, it will affect your overall score. Please assume that the reviewer doesn't know anything about your area, your water body, or the water quality issues that you're trying to address. Please provide all relevant information so that the reviewer can make a well-informed review of your proposal. And please remember to include letters of support from your project partners, since that demonstrates community support for your project. We've not selected an RFP date for the 2025 grant round yet, so stay tuned on that. If you have any questions, you can contact Megan Selby, who is the 604B grant coordinator, or you can visit our grants webpage, which is listed on the bottom of the slide. All right, next slide, please. The second of our federally funded grants is the 319 Non-Point Source Implementation Grant. The two Federal grants are kind of designed to work as sort of a 1-2 process where you would apply for 604B to do your planning, and then you would apply to 319 to do your implementation. So as the name says, non-point source implementation grant. And this grant is intended to fund projects that are associated with implementation projects to restore impaired waters and to protect healthy waters. Priorities again are for 25-29 include those 3 areas of pollutants, developed land, septic systems, and agriculture. We do prioritize projects that propose to restore impaired waters and protect high quality unimpaired waters through the implementation of best management practices. And we are also prioritizing projects that incorporate active community engagement. So we'd like to see grantees moving away from kind of the brochure and presentation type of education and outreach, and really engage the community, you know, to the extent that's possible, based on the type of project that they're doing. In order to receive funding for an implementation project, you must have a MassDP accepted 9-element watershed-based plan. Going forward, we will not fund projects that do not have a watershed-based plan. So we have 2 project types in the implementation grant category, including implementation projects and non-implementation projects. So those implementation projects, again, are projects that will install BMPs that are restoring impaired waters, protecting healthy waters, or also restoring nitrogen impacted areas. And within the capacity building category, we have 2 subcategories that we call our regional coordinators. We have the regional NPS implementation project development, or you might hear us call it NPS regional coordinators, and also agriculture regional NPS implementation project development. Those are such long titles. And we call those the agricultural regional coordinators. And through those 2 grant categories, we fund organizations such as regional planning agencies, watershed organizations. We can fund conservation districts and organizations like that to carry out non-point source focused work. And that includes activities like education and outreach, the identification of regional non-point source priorities, the development of watershed-based plans, and also the development of future 319 or 604B grant applications. In this category, we also fund NPS capacity building and technical transfer. So that can be activities such as non-point source management capacity building at the local or regional level, and also activities such as the application of new non-point source management technologies. And finally, in this category, we have municipal or regional stormwater collaborative and funding mechanisms. So we would fund projects that evaluate the development of a stormwater utility, including activities like estimating associated costs, identifying potential funding structures, and evaluating what type of education and outreach is needed at the community level to gather support for the development of a stormwater collaborative. So for 319, our eligibility is much broader. Any Massachusetts public or private organization is eligible. We anticipate that we will have $1 to $3 million in funding for the next grant round, which has not been, the date of which I should say has not been determined yet. And within that funding pot, a minimum of 50% will be directed to implementation projects, and the remainder goes to non-implementation. We don't have any minimum or maximum limits, but projects average anywhere from 50,000 to 500,000 per award. We do have a 40% non-federal match requirement for the 319 grant. Grant duration is 2.5 years, and there is a potential 1-year renewal option for a total of 3.5 years for your grant project. Malcolm Harper is our 319 grant coordinator. His email address is there. You can reach out to him if you have any questions. And the website link is at the bottom of the slide. I'll pop that link into the chat when I'm done with my presentation as well, so you have it. All right, and finally, the Water Quality Monitoring Grant. So this is a state-funded grant program, where the other two are federally funded, but this is state-funded. And the goal of the Water Quality Monitoring Grant is to support either ongoing or new water quality monitoring and data collection efforts by volunteer groups in order to increase the amount of external data Mass DEP can use for our water quality assessments under the Federal Clean Water Act. So program priorities include the collection of data that's needed by Mass DEP for Section 305B and 303D reporting, and data that supports other DEP water quality priorities as well. So project types that we fund under this grant include the collection of data, water quality monitoring, sample processing, activities like training and consultations that would improve an organization's capacity to collect good water quality data, and activities that develop regional and long-term monitoring programs and networks. Eligible activities include the purchase of equipment and supplies, lab analysis fees, other service fees such as fees for a consultant, fees for equipment calibration, repair, and maintenance, and the development or purchase of data management tools. So if you need to buy software or something in order to develop a database to store and manage your water quality data, we would fund that. So we have about $200,000 available for funding. Awards typically range from $20,000 to $75,000. There's no match requirement, but providing match may make your proposal more competitive. We have not announced 2025 grant round yet, but it will likely be in the fall. Bob Smith is our grant coordinator. You can contact Bob. His email address is there on the slide if you have any questions. And we also have information about this grant on our DEP grants webpage. So that's it. Thank you so much. And I will look forward to your questions in the breakout rooms.
Great. Thank Judy. I just wanted to, a technical question. Are people seeing, participants seeing links to specific programs in the chat? I hope everyone can see that. If you can't see it, please let me know in the chat. Our next speaker is Matt Duff, who we already introduced. He's the Water Infrastructure Specialist with the New England Environmental Finance Center, but he will present on behalf of Robin McNamara, Deputy Director of the Division of Municipal Services with Mass DEP. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Barbara. Hello again, everyone. It's nice to be able to talk to you again, this time about the Massachusetts Clean Water State Revolving Fund, usually referred to as the CWSRF, and how that funding source can help support important wastewater and stormwater projects in your communities. So the main goal of the CWSRF is designed to help communities fund critical water infrastructure projects. Specifically, the fund targets projects that protect public health and safety, improve water quality, and helps to ensure compliance with permits and environmental regulations. So in practical terms, this covers a pretty wide range of water infrastructure projects. Some examples of those projects might be wastewater treatment plant improvements, so ensuring systems can effectively manage waste and maintain public health. Stormwater infrastructure projects, so helping communities handle stormwater runoff and maybe prevent flooding. Mitigation of combined sewer overflows to reduce untreated wastewater discharges that could threaten public health. And then projects that tackle specific water pollution issues, such as nutrient reduction or pollution control measures. And the stages of these projects that are eligible for financing include both the planning and the construction phases of those various projects. And so who's eligible for this fund? So eligible borrowers for the CWSRF program typically include local government units, meaning towns or cities or counties, and also community-based wastewater and stormwater utilities. So if you're from one of these entities, you're definitely eligible to apply and encouraged to apply. It's important to understand that not all projects are prioritized equally with the CWSRF fund. So by that, we mean the program uses a tiered ranking system, giving the highest priority to those projects that directly tackle the greatest threats to public health and the environment. So essentially, the bigger the environmental or public health risk your project addresses, the higher that's going to rank and the better chance you're going to have of securing funding. So in terms of the timelines, and this is an important aspect with all funding sources, but particularly with the SRF funding, the application cycle typically begins with the submittal of a proposal. And so there's a lot of paperwork and components that need to be completed in a timely manner. And so again, projects that are competitively ranked each year based on the urgency and the importance of the project, which is deemed from that proposal. And so if you're thinking about applying, the first step to remember it would be to submit those project proposals as soon as you can. The current draft intended use plan sets the total funding at around $841 million. And so keep in mind that the projects addressing the greatest threats to public health and the environment are going to have the best chances of getting funded first. And finally, I just want to remind everyone that the Clean Water State Revolving Fund is designed specifically to help bridge that gap between a community's infrastructure needs, particularly with wastewater and stormwater, and this available funding source. So if you're interested or have any questions about your project's eligibility or how the ranking process works, don't hesitate to reach out to us at NEWIN, our NEWIN team, myself and our program manager, Laura Collins, at the New England Environmental Finance Center, or you can reach out to the Mass Department of Environmental Protection if you have any questions. So thank you. And Barbara, that's all I have for that.
Great, thanks, Matt. Our next speaker is Allison Perlman. She's the Regional Restoration Partnerships Program Manager with the Department of Environmental Restoration. Allison?
Thank you, Barbara. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you today. So as Barbara mentioned, I work with DER, and our mission is to restore and protect the Commonwealth's rivers, wetlands, and watersheds for the benefit of all people and the environment. Today, we'll be discussing 2 grant programs, but I also want to recognize that we have many other grant programs, and so I'll provide links in the chat after I finish for all of those. So the partnerships program is focused on providing support to regional organizations such as watershed groups, regional planning agencies who work with municipalities and other local partners to advance river and wetland restoration projects in Massachusetts. The Restorations Partnerships program is really focused on 4 key aspects: capacity building and collaboration. Restoration and nature-based climate resiliency projects are just getting more and more complex, which relies on a broader group to advance these critical projects. And that just doesn't happen overnight, as we all know. So the program encourages creating the time and space needed to foster relationships and allow for that holistic sector, cross-sector thinking, and provide a shared learning environment. In addition, we look at local leadership structure. So the planning and projects are developed by the partnership organizations who have been working in the regions for years and have existing relationships with the community to better understand the needs and local conditions. Next, we focused on a flexible and adaptable approach. So it allows for the partnerships to adjust to the ebbs and flows of local change and interest, something kind of inherent in government and funding cycles. And finally, we focus on solid and predictable funding. So this allows for the advancement of those longer-term restoration planning efforts and advancing more complex, comprehensive projects. Currently, the partnerships we work with have a 5-year term. So into the more technical aspect of the grant program, we provide roughly $100,000 to $200,000 annually per partnership, although the last few years that's been a little bit higher. In addition, we are hoping to expand the number of partnerships we support in 2026. In addition, I just want to highlight the project type. So as I mentioned, we're really focused on capacity building and projects. So currently, partnership funding's been utilized to fund and support a restoration coordinator who is an employee of the partnership organization and based in their own office. And the role of the coordinator is to bring together regional partners, identify regional restoration needs, and develop and update their strategic plans. In addition, we provide implementation funding, and a lot of the funding really goes towards the seed funding, which advances projects from their earliest phases to really kind of set them up for preparing successful grants. But we also do use some implementation funding for design and engineering and permitting. So essentially moving a project towards shovel ready. And then finally, specifically, the funding can be used to advance aquatic habitat restoration projects. I'm not going to list all of them out, but the types of projects are really kind of from dam removals to flood restoration, and you can see them listed on the slide there. So past successful applicants have demonstrated the following key characteristics. They're region-based. The applicants proposed with an interconnected geographic region in Massachusetts. They're focused on long-term restoration climate resiliency, so applicants commit to advancing restoration of rivers and wetlands and nature-based resiliency with long-term benefits to the surrounding ecology and communities. They're action-oriented. Applicants prioritize a strategic plan to maximize the potential for high-quality vetted restoration projects. And they're collaboratively and equitably governed. So applicants demonstrate collaborative leadership that ensures engagement from a breadth of partners. They demonstrate a commitment to ensuring equitable delivery of restoration benefits. Finally, their capacity building. So applicants demonstrate the ability to build lasting capacity among regional and local partners to initiate, fund, and manage restoration and nature-based climate resiliency activities and maximize the potential for peer learning. Our past eligible requirements have been 501c3 nonprofits and regional planning agencies. And as I said, I'm going to drop a couple links in the chat, but I do want to highlight that the first link will be for DER funding notices. It's really critical. This is funding notices that are kind of time sensitive. It's different than our DER newsletter, so make sure to sign up for that. And hopefully I wrapped it up in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thanks, Allison. Our next speaker is Amber Carr. She is the Ecological Restoration Grants Manager, also a DER. Amber.
Thanks, Barbara. So I work with Allison at DER, the Massachusetts Division of Ecological Restoration. Our Culvert Replacement Municipal Assistance Program, or CRMA program, has been operating since 2017. This program typically awards between $2 to $3 million annually across 10 to 20 projects to design, permit, or replace undersized, restrictive, or failing culverts and road stream crossings in areas of high ecological value with structures that better meet the goals of the stream crossing standards. The Massachusetts Stream Crossing Standards are designed to improve stream processes and connectivity, improve aquatic and terrestrial organism passage, meet the hydraulic needs of rivers and streams, reduce flood risks, and improve community access and climate resiliency. Typically, our grants are 1 year and are awarded for specific portions of work. So instead of providing funding from start to finish of projects, our grant program is really designed to fill funding gaps to support the project. That includes any phase of that project's lifetime. So it could be field data collection, design engineering, permitting, or construction. So typically projects do utilize our funds in addition to funds that are outside our program to fund the full lifespan of their project timeline. We, as I mentioned, we do typically have $2 to $3 million total per year. 10 to 20 projects do get funded in amounts of $25,000 to $400,000 per grant award. We do not require a match for these awards, and they are tied to our fiscal year typically, so that would be July 1st through June 30th. We do expect to release an RFR coming soon this spring for fiscal year 26, starting July 1st, 2025. When we do have that opportunity available to folks, we'll post it on our website, but also include the announcement in our Culvert Connections newsletter, and we can put a link to that in the chat for everybody. As I mentioned, these projects are for culvert or bridge replacements located on public ways. They are for non-tidal river or stream crossings only, and they can be intermittent or perennial streams, and therefore local government units, municipalities, and government recognized tribal units. As I mentioned, therefore, replacing undersized, perched, and or degraded culverts of high ecological value, and only projects that meet the stream crossing standards are eligible. That is all that I have. So I hope to speak to folks more in the breakout rooms. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you very much, Amber. Our next speaker is India Mackinson, and she is a Coastal Resilience Grant Specialist with CZM.
Hello, everyone. So I'll be presenting on our Coastal Resilience Grant Program today. Our program started in 2014, so we've been funding projects for 11 years now with the following goals in mind: addressing current and future flooding, erosion, sea level rise impacts, and this can be as small as the parcel site level all the way up to a regional scale. We're also very focused on protecting critical public facilities and critical infrastructure. And we also really want to make sure our projects include a broad public access benefit. And as well, we are focused on supporting the adaptation of environmental justice communities. So to address these goals, which again are focused on resilience to coastal hazards, we have 5 eligible project categories. And projects can focus on one or more of these in their applications. And I would say that most applications received do hit on 2 or more of these categories. So the first is detailed risk and vulnerability assessments. These projects build off previous planning priorities, such as those established during MVP and other local plans to map and evaluate vulnerable public facilities. These projects use the best available climate science and consider multiple planning time horizons. Next, we have public outreach, which helps communities better understand the risks ahead of them and empowers them with this knowledge to make their community more resilient. We also have proactive planning, which changes policies and implements processes that help the community more holistically prepare for climate change, such as stricter building codes or planning phased managed retreat. And then next we have retrofit and relocation, which is more construction focused and helps vulnerable public facilities to adapt or retreat from coastal hazards. And finally, we have shoreline restoration, which is also more construction focused. Here we focus more on using nature-based or softer solutions to stabilize shorelines on both the beach and bayside. So we are able to support these projects through multiple phases, which include planning, design, permitting, and construction monitoring. Typically, we only fund 1 or 2 of these phases at a time due to the time constraint of the grant, which is only about 9 months from when the contract is awarded to the end of our state fiscal year, which would be the hard deadline for grant activities. So we have some projects that come through multiple grant rounds to do all of these phases with us, but communities can come in at any of these phases as long as they have proper documentation for the previous phases. So if you come in for construction, if you have all the permitting lined up, then we can fund that. So overall, what makes applications competitive is proposing a project that can be completed within that grant timeline, even if it's just for one of these phases. So to go over some of the finer details, our grant is eligible for Massachusetts coastal cities and towns, nonprofits, including qualifying tribal entities and federally recognized tribes. For this fiscal year, our request for responses will come out as early as late April this year. And this round, we have about $4 to $5 million of funding available with a project cap of $2 million. And we have a 10% match requirement across the board. And this year, we are also project themes, which are regional partnerships, adapting critical public facilities, and environmental justice. So for all applicants, but especially for those focused on regional partnerships and environmental justice, really strong letters of support are essential for competitive application. And we will be available for pre-application support up until the RFR is released to give feedback on applications. So you can email me or your CZM regional coordinator to set up a meeting anytime. We're happy to discuss any ideas and give feedback up until that release. So, and also even if you were not ready for this coming round, we're available throughout the year to help build those applications. Thank you.
Thank you, India. Our next speaker is also with CZM, Kathleen Mason. She is the Coastal Habitat and Water Quality Specialist.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for being here, everyone. So the Coastal Habitat and Water Quality grants come from the Massachusetts Office of Coastal Zone Management and provide financial resources for projects that assess and treat stormwater pollution and support comprehensive habitat restoration. So our RFR this year is expected for a spring 2025 release, and we have just under $1 million in available funding for total for this grant round. And I'll say that match is not required, but it is recommended up to 25% of the total project costs. And our grants, also similar to coastal resilience, follow the state fiscal calendar, starting when a contract is signed by both parties and up until either a 1-year timeline of June 30th, 2026, or a 2-year project until June 30th, 2027. So our FY26 Coastal Habitat and Water Quality grants are open to municipalities and intermunicipal partnerships located within the greater Massachusetts coastal watershed. The Massachusetts coastal watershed is further defined on our website, so if you're unsure, there are a list of what municipalities fit into that. Federally recognized Massachusetts tribes, certified 501c3 nonprofit organizations, regional planning entities, and stormwater collaboratives are also eligible if they are in partnership with a municipality, again, located within the greater coastal watershed. And then our last sort of eligibility requirement is for eligible waters, include those with a direct coastal connection in the greater coastal watershed. So we'll look for an understanding of that coastal connection in an application. Our grants seek to support improvement, protection, and restoration of coastal water quality and habitat in the Commonwealth, and we do that through some of these program goals that I've listed on the screen, which include improvement and protection of water quality, implementation of green stormwater infrastructure, building capacity of Massachusetts communities, the protection of associated benefits and uses of those coastal habitat and water quality resources, advancing restoration of critical habitats and protection of critical buffers and marsh migration corridors. So through those goals, we have 6 total eligible project categories also listed on the screen. Any project application may include one or more of these eligible project categories. So these include the assessment, identification, and characterization of stormwater non-point source pollution impacts. This can include monitoring to confirm water quality problems, but this will not fund long-term monitoring programs. Our second category is the design, permitting, and our implementation of structural stormwater BMPs, and that can be for new BMPs or retrofits of existing systems. And these projects are required to have an operations and maintenance plan and must be on municipal land, or the applicant must have an access easement. Our third category, capacity building activities. This is for municipalities to support implementation of green stormwater infrastructure. This might include things like bylaw review, development of tools to help municipalities assess or plan for green stormwater infrastructure implementation, or things like case studies. The fourth category is comprehensive habitat restoration planning. We look for projects to comprehensively assess the coastal habitat area that they choose, look at all the stressors in that area, develop a list of feasible and alternative restoration options, put those into priorities, and throw all of that information into a big plan to assess some short and long-term restoration options for the habitat. The fifth category, advancement of priority land acquisition planning activities, is for the purposes of restoration, buffer protection, and/or future marsh migration. I'll note that this category is only open to applicants that have a current habitat restoration plan or that are currently completing one under our Coastal Habitat and Water Quality Grants funding. The last category is new as of this year, and there are a lot of important details, and so you can look into our RFR to learn more about this specifically and figure out if what you want to do fits in. But this includes data collection and engineering to support future implementation of municipal crossing infrastructure improvements or retrofits for habitat restoration. Again, this project is open to those who have completed a comprehensive habitat restoration plan under our funding, or those that are detailed as a priority in other local, regional, or Commonwealth planning documents may be considered as well. So I just want to reference to look at our RFR when it comes out. We'll reference ineligible activities, provide an application guide that details important information, materials, and considerations for your application. We also had an information session yesterday, and so that recording should be posted on our website soon. And you can learn more information about each one of these project categories and some other things that we will look at within our grant. So thank you so much.
Great, Kathleen, thank you. Our next speakers are, there's two of them, Amira Patterson with the community engagement. She's a community engagement and specialist and communications liaison for the MBTA 495 corridor, and Rachel Scott from T4MA, community engagement specialist west of Worcester with the Transportation of Massachusetts.
Great, thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Lee Scott. I'm with Transportation for Massachusetts. We are a statewide transportation advocacy coalition, and I'm here today with my colleague, Amira Patterson. Our organization serves as the anchor organization for Massachusetts for the EPA Environmental Justice Thriving Communities Grant-Making Program. As an anchor organization, our role is to lead outreach efforts in the state and to connect potential grant applicants to more information and support, such as connecting with the core project team and the New England Thriving Community Technical Assistance Center, which you heard about before. The core team is made up of Health Resources in Action, Alternatives for Community and Environment, and the Grassroots Fund. And some of the core project team members will also be available to help answer some questions later on in the breakout room. So these grant funds aim to support the implementation of projects to address local environmental and/or public health challenges in communities. The next application round opens on April 18th and will close on May 30th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. There's more information about the application along with the RFP available on the EJ for New England website. So there are 4 types of grants within this program that people can apply for, and I will briefly go over 2 of them, and then Amira will go over the other 2. So as you can see on this slide, this is the seed funds, and seed funds are awarded up to $75,000. They're available for community work by severely capacity-constrained community-based organizations. So that means organizations that have 4 or less full-time equivalent paid staff members. Eligible applicants for this type of funding are nonprofit and community-based organizations, tribal governments, both federally recognized and state recognized, and intertribal consortia, and Native American organizations. Next slide, please. For tiers 1 through 3, the eligible applicants include those listed on this previous slide for seed funds, as well as local governments, institutions of higher education, philanthropic and civic organizations with nonprofit status. And tier 1 is for assessment projects, So Tier 1 will grant up to $150,000 for 1 year. Projects in this tier should begin to assess a local community's environmental justice landscape. And there are some example projects listed here on the slide, but they're not limited to these types. And now I will hand it over to Amira.
Thank you so much, Rachel. So yes, my name is Amira Patterson, Community Engagement Specialist with T4MA, and jumping right into the next slide for Tier 2. Tier 2 is the planning projects, and this will grant up to $250,000 for up to 2 years. Projects in this tier should include plan formulations and partnership development activities to address identified environmental justice concerns. I'm not going to list all of the projects, but some examples of the projects are planning and partnership building. If we can go on to the next slide for Tier 3. Tier 3 is implementing projects, and Tier 3 will grant up to $350,000 for up to 2 years. Project in this tier should support implementation projects informed by community planning and research. Examples of this project are increased access to healthy food, as well as conducting healthy home assessments. So a reminder that the round 2 applications are open Friday, April 18th, and closing on Friday, May 30th at 5 p.m. Organizations can apply in multiple ways as individuals or partners, and you can find more information at their frequently asked questions document at the Environmental Justice website. Additional support for assistance was offered for office hours on the Environmental Justice for New England website. Stay tuned for future announcements and postings for their office hours. The T4MA also has a depth of resources. We have a webinar, an info session webinar that's available that we will share the link in the chat, as well as other helpful resources that can be found at t4ma.org on our website. And you can email T4MA for more assistance or to be pointed in the right direction at our EJ Grant email, which is ejgrants@t4ma.org. All these resources will be sent to you in the chat. But thank you everyone for your time, and we wish you luck in your application process. Thank you for having us.
Hey, thank you, Amira and Rachel. Our next speaker is Darcy Young. She is the Executive Director of the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program.
Thanks, Barbara. And thanks, everybody. It's wonderful to be here and hear about all of these excellent funding opportunities. Again, I'm the Executive Director of the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program. We're one of 28 estuary programs around the United States and one of 3 in Massachusetts. In Massachusetts, we serve the watersheds of the Taunton and Blackstone rivers. Those are the 2 largest tributaries to Narragansett Bay. So it's really within our interests to promote good projects in those watersheds. And at the Estuary Program, we're a staff of 4, and we have basically 3 different buckets of services. First of which is convening. We, sorry folks, I have a little assistant with me today, so you might hear her in the background. But first of which is convening. We convene partners to talk about watershed opportunities and issues. Second of which is our science communication services. We work to provide products and tools really kind of across the gamut for a variety of different audiences about watershed science. And then third, which I'm here to talk about today, is our funding services. We work hard to subaward as much of our funding as we can each year. We're fortunate to be supported by the EPA and the SNEP program. And so I'm here to talk about 3 different funding opportunities. One of them is currently open. That's our Outreach and Education RFP. I can put that in the chat in just a moment. So this opportunity, we have about $76,000 available with a maximum award of $15,000 per project. And for this, we're looking for some projects such as in-school and informal watershed education programs and events, public outreach campaigns, community science monitoring projects, demonstration projects, educational multimedia, The projects can really run the gamut of types as long as the mission is to better engage people with watershed science. Our second RFP that we plan to release later this spring is for research projects. And these are for projects really that implement and advance the NBEP research plan, which we published late last year. And I'll put a link to that in the chat as well. And then the last RFP that I'll mention is for planning projects. We anticipate having a relatively large amount available in an RFP later this year. And this funding has been supported by the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law for the past 3 years. And while we await our 4th year of funding, we are actively looking for project ideas for year 4. And so if you have planning projects that you are trying to fund that are consistent with the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan, please, feel free to visit me in the breakout room or send me an email. We really focus on funding pre-construction steps, anything from public engagement, partner engagement, staff capacity, up through final design and permitting. And so, as I mentioned, right now, we're really in that phase of discovery for these projects. We like to try to be as responsive to funding needs as we possibly can. So if you have a project that you're looking to fund, please come visit me in the breakout room. And to give you an example of some of the projects we funded with those planning RFPs in the past, we've had a green infrastructure planning RFP. We've had a habitat restoration and public access planning RFP. And then recently we just closed an aquatic connectivity and aquatic organism passage RFP. So that gives you a sense of the types of projects that we support. The last thing I'll mention is that because we don't serve all of Massachusetts, it's worth your while to make sure that your project is within our study area. And again, I can put a link in the chat to a searchable map just to make sure that you're in the right spot. Last thing, please join our mailing list for funding announcements, since I know I'm missing a couple of key dates here, but we will make sure to blast those out to our email list when they're available. All right, with that, I will close it up. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Darcy. Impressive multitasking, I'll have to comment. Our next speaker is Kyle Gray. He is Chief of Staff with Throw Environmental. Kyle?
Great. Thank you, Barbara. Good to see everyone. I'm Kyle Gray here from Throw Environmental, and my team contracts with the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation on a couple different grant programs. And today I'll be talking about the National Coastal Resilience Fund. So this program's been around since 2018. There were historic levels of investment through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act. As of last year, funding was around $140 million. It's still TBD what the funding looks like this year for 2025. But by and large, the program supports nature-based projects that have dual benefits. So they're meant to enhance coastal resilience in the face of coastal hazards, and really enhance risk reduction to critical assets and coastal communities, as well as enhancing habitat for fish and wildlife species. Because it's a NIFWIF program, it's leveraging federal funding with private sector contributions, so it's able to spread dollars a little bit further as well. This is a national program, so any applicants would be competing against other applicants across the country. But New England has been a priority area for the past few years, so I think that bodes well for folks on the call. I really do want to underscore that the nature-based solutions, community risk reduction, and coastal resilience, and fish and wildlife habitat benefits, those are the main tent poles for this program. There are some other kind of core pieces that will make you more competitive, which we'll talk about. But nature-based solutions, resilience, and habitat really is that collection of those three really are the key points for this program and what you should be focusing on when you're evaluating whether or not to submit an application. Eligible applicants are kind of your standard players: state, tribal, municipal, and county governments, nonprofits, educational organizations, and for-profits as well. So if there are any consultants on the call, or if you have a contractor that you typically work with, as long as that contractor was competitively procured, you can use that organization as the lead applicant for this program. In addition to the kind of main points that this program focuses on, some other points that are evaluated as part of the evaluation criteria by reviewers, points that you would want to work into a proposal to be more competitive, include things like community and partner engagement. So making sure that not only you're engaging folks, but doing so in a meaningful way that gives them kind of a stake in the process. Scaling projects up to make sure that they're identifying a problem and they're operating in a way to address that problem. So whether that's parcel size, shoreline size, or if you're operating across an entire region, the scale of the solution usually should match the scale of the problem. Innovative and pilot techniques are definitely fundable under this program. It doesn't just need to be tried and true practices. You certainly can submit those applications, but trying something new, piloting something specifically at scale tends to be competitive. And they're definitely interested in taking those innovative ideas and transferring them as lessons learned across a community or a region. I do want to point out some of the priority funding categories here that you see in the middle column on the screen. So you do have to select one of 4 categories in order to submit your application. So the first one is a planning-based category focused on capacity building and resilience planning. The next 2 are site assessment and final design. So the second one, site assessment, is meant to get design anywhere between 30 and 60% design. And the final design category is meant to get design between 60 to 90%. So really working in incremental steps towards that last phase, which is restoration and implementation. You are not meant to get all this done in a single grant. You're actually encouraged to not do that. But these are kind of stepwise approaches to kind of walk you through a pipeline. And you would have to reapply every cycle in hopes of getting funded for that. But you can certainly find funding elsewhere and use NIFWIF or NCRF as one tool in the toolbox to get a project completed. I do want to mention about timeline here. Things are still up in the air, like I started with. We're hoping for an RFP release date sometime this month. That's looking favorable, and we think probably within the next week or so. We're feeling very positive about that. Typically, that means pre-proposals will be due sometime in mid to late April. That date is not definite, so I would take that with a grain of salt. But there is this pre-proposal phase with about 2 pages of narrative that you have to submit prior to a full application. So once pre-proposals are submitted, there's a review period, and invitations to submit full proposals go out typically around June. I don't know if that timeline will change or not this year, but once you receive that application, there's usually about a month to 6 weeks to submit the full app. And then over the summer, folks would review, and awards are typically announced in November or December. So it's definitely a process there, and there are certain steps that you have to follow. So with that, I think we covered everything on the slide here. I'll just add kind of as a last piece of information, this funding program is kind of still, certain pieces of it are still up in the air. So I would really say wait till the RFP comes out over the next week or 2 and give that a good read, because there will be some changes since last year. And I'm happy to talk more about that in the breakout groups.
Thanks, Kyle. And our last speaker before the breakout rooms is Tom Ardito. He is director of the SNEP Watershed Implementation Grants, or SWIG, with Restore America's Estuaries. Tom?
Thank you, Barbara. I'm Tom Ardito. I'm the director of SNEP Watershed Implementation Grants. And some of the earlier speakers mentioned the SNEP program. Under the SNEP program, which is a large-scale regional program through EPA Region 1. The SNEP network is one major component, which is technical assistance, and we're one of the principal funding components of the program, and as the name implies. So we've been in business since 2018 in the current form of the program. It's a partnership between Restore America's Estuaries, which is a national nonprofit, and EPA Region 1. Our funding area is specific to the SNEP region, which is all of Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts, including the Cape and Islands and all of the Narragansett Bay watershed. You can go on our website, which is, I should have put it here, it's www.snepgrants.org, and see our funding area and find out all about the program. The important thing to let you know is that our program is open for applications right now. We're accepting letters of intent, which is the first stage of the application process, through April 18th. So I would encourage you, as some other speakers have, to jump on our website, read the RFP. There are a bunch of other resources there. You can see what we funded in the past. And if you're thinking of applying for a grant, sorry, there's quite a lot of information there. And tomorrow, Thursday, at 10 a.m., we'll be hosting a pre-application workshop specific to this program. So same kind of thing as this workshop, but going into much more detail specifically about SNEP watershed implementation grants. Most of our grants are in the, I would say, $75,000 to $450,000 range. Our maximum is $500,000. And we do offer smaller grants around some specific purposes, which are outlined in the RFP. Our grants are 2-year grants. It's federal funding through EPA, requiring a non-federal match of 33%, I think. We fund, as many of the other programs in this workshop, we fund a wide variety of water quality, habitat, green streets, green cities, really anything in the environmental restoration, ecological restoration, water quality restoration space, specifically to implement EPA's SNEP strategic plan. And the 3 pillars of that strategic plan are clean water, healthy ecosystems, and sustainable communities. And I'd encourage you to go to EPA's SNEP website, which you can also link to from our site, and take a look at the strategic plan, because the grants that we fund are all in support of the strategic plan, but the strategic plan is very, very broad. Some of the things we look for are projects that are that build capacity either by strengthening existing partnerships or outreach and information, or ideally a combination of those things. We look for community engagement. We look for implementation of local priorities, and we fund innovative technologies as well as tried and true restoration approaches. I realize I'm short on time here, so I think the best thing I can do is encourage you to go to our website, snepgrants.org, read the RFP, read the program description, and if you are thinking of applying, join us at 10 a.m. tomorrow. You can link off of our website again to participate in that workshop and learn more about the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, so now we have time to go into the breakout rooms and ask more specific questions of our panelists. There'll be 4 breakout rooms, so there'll be multiple panelists in some of the breakout rooms. You should see the Zoom meeting link in the chat. I'm not exactly sure what everyone can see, but hopefully I can see it and hopefully you can. If you can't see it in the chat, the link to the rooms, please check your email because there will be a PDF of the links to the rooms. So you can go in and out of any of the meeting rooms as well. You don't have to stay in one. So just, if you have a question, you want to jump into another one, ask another question, feel free. And I also want to thank all of our speakers who stayed on time within their 5 minutes. You're very efficient with your explanations and providing links, and there's a lot of great information. So thank you all for that. And thank you all for attending. After the breakout rooms, you can go after you don't have any questions. I'll be in and out of some of the breakout rooms, as will some of the other SNEP network staff. But want to thank you right now before we head into those breakout rooms.
I just wanted to quickly jump in because we did have a direct question just asking about getting those links. And so those